Hey everyone, it's Slime Spiraled back again. We are really lucky that League is firing today. Started the season, that's just how it is. We have Purple Murasaki who's back on Mono White Pollet Pools. Funnily enough, there's already two in the hand. They're not going to be able to cast any of the white cards, so oh my gosh. All right, well, Purple seems to have a bit of bad luck here. Opening hand, kind of rough. We saw some of that in our last match. Over on Ricky's side, I believe this is the Splinter Entanglement deck that Ricky was talking about. I am going to have to go and check into deck lists to see if that is the case. Let me check real quick. Maybe yes. Okay, I think it is the Splinter Entanglement deck. So let's talk a little bit about what we're gonna see. I'm going to go over, just give us 2 seconds here and check Splinter Entanglement so you can all see it. It's a black enchantment. Once during each of your turns, when you sacrifice a creature, an enchantment, or a planeswalker, you get to pick one. Either you search your library for a card that shares a card type with the sack permanent and put into your hand, or the opponent has to sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type. So it's a pretty interesting toolbox kind of thing. We seem to have started off with a Forsaken Palace casting a mana ascetic, aka Flightless Birds of Paradise. This card used to do so much more, and now we've finally gotten it to a balanced position. Turn 2, we've got a new Mo Wang Ashen Absolution. It's a 2/3 Ox Demon Monk. When it enters, you can have all players sack a non-token creature, enchantment, or planeswalker. I think we went with no sack. Good. For black, you can make each player discard a card, and Neo Muang goes up to a 3/4. And then for X black, return any number of creature cards not named Neo Muang with different mana values, X or less, from your graveyard to the battlefield, and X can't be 0. So, Transcend is a cool mechanic. It lets you do some really cool stuff, and I like using this technology on creatures. So, 2/3 is now a 3/4, and both players discarded a card. Purple opting to throw one of those planes away. Um, Probably better than getting rid of Disciple of Faradia, considering you have an abundance of planes here. We're gonna see, I believe, maybe Oracles. Are we gonna see Oracles? No. Okay, we just went for a second Transcend, just to get Neo Wang all the way up to a 4/5. We had to pay 2 because, again, X can't be 0. Not picking up any creatures out of the yard, but just going for the raw stats. So swinging in for 4 here with our Ox Demon Monk. Purple's going to think a little bit if they're willing to take the 4. Purple is. And we're going to pass it back, I imagine, here. Yeah. So depending on what Purple draws next turn, we're either, I believe, going to see a 3-drop if we pull something like a Helena or a Subdue or anything. But if not... Okay, interesting. We drew a Time Worn Crags. It's a interesting land removal. It costs less for each non-basic land you don't control, and it destroys non-basics. So we're already at 2. But we're going to run out the third planes. I'm imagining we're going to see Xifeng Hu transcend herself. She's going to go up to a 3/3. Whenever a creature attacks, you get a 1/1 colorless spirit, which is a nice little blocker. And if we're doing a lot of sack things, it's nice to have these little tokens lying around that you can use exactly for that reason. All right, passing it back. Ricky's going to untap. Still have an Oracle's Ploy in hand. It's a pretty good piece of removal. That gives -3/-3 for just a single black, but as a little reward, your opponent does get to scry 1 when the enchanted creature dies. Also drew into a Seeker of Untouched Beauty, a really nice champion promo version. As long as you control 4 or more lands, it gets +2/+2 and has trample, so pretty solid. And when it dies, you search for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped. This card is the whole package. Really good stuff here. But we went with Lumbering Hillock, fetching it out. Yeah, and then good stuff here. All right, what are we drawing here? We've got that 4th planes. We've drew into an Event Horizon, which is nice because it can get rid of some stuff. But I believe we would need one more non-land permanent on Ricky's side to be able to go all the way for, because it's 3 mana. So, all right, let's see what the plays are. Purple going to do a little bit of thinking here. Numa Wang is God modded, so we've gone all the way up to the final form. Okay, so we went with Disciple of Faradia. Going to search for an Angel or an Aura card. Reveal it, get some life, so it's going to be Promised Exaltation. Going to gain 5 life off of that. And if ever we find a Polyp Pools or play Promised next turn, we'll be able to have Disciple become a 4/4 flyer Angel as well. So really good body, really good package. I love this card. It costs 4, so you know not every deck can go up to that and play something like this, but it's a very nice card. I really love the design. All right, passing back, we've got an Inexorable Epidemic here, which is, you know, a scary sort of enchantment. It costs 6. It's a curse. Your creatures enchanted player controls get -2/-2. And whenever they cast a non-creature spell, they lose 2 life and you gain 2 life. So it does a lot. It hits like a truck. But thankfully, it's not perfect. Oracle's Ploy, though, is going to come out, take care of the Disciple before that Angel can come out. Purple's going to be allowed to scry 1. And puts the Time-Worn Crags from top of the library onto the bottom, looking for something different than Time-Worn Crags here. We're going to attack here for 4. Yep. Takes a little chunk of damage. All right, untaps. We're at the 5th mana. We've drawn into our Subdue False Idols. We still don't have the horrors to make it cost less, but it does just simply exile a non-horror creature, so sometimes, you know, it's pretty relevant. And the fact that it's exile means cards like Seeker don't get their dice trigger, so that's also not nothing. All right, we're casting the Promised Exaltation, big 5/5, and whenever a creature you attacks alone, you have a lot of options here. So we're going to swing in for 3, and we're picking the counter mode. So Xifang goes all the way up to a 5/5. Seeker is going to block, going to get a land. But because it, yep, pretty solid. And then next turn, of course, you can exile with power less than, because everything is less than 5 power here, depending on what Ricky draws. It's a Primal Resurgence. Gives a land tap green green. Used to be one of those whenever you tap it, you know, you get an additional mana, but this is a little more fair. Still a very good card, still a very good ramp piece. So, I mean, definitely going to see quite a few of it lying around. All right, let's see what this turn looks like. We're going for the Epidemic. 6 with a mana ascetic, so everything is a little smaller. The fact that it's -2/-2 does mean that we can't do the exile trick this turn, but we are at 3. If you're willing to take that 4 damage, your Event Horizon is now online for Numa, and there's no really other threat right now. I mean, yeah, you're going to take some damage from Inexorable Epidemic, but because you're not going to easily get to the 6. Yeah, I mean, let's see what's picked. When you're running really like 1 piece for 1 piece removal, you got to make sure that that you use it accordingly. The nice thing here is you could also just attack with either or, like they'll both get their ability. As a flyer, you know, this guarantees you go over top. There's a lot of little things you can do. I mean, the counters are eventually going to make a big difference here. You might have -2/-2 because of Epidemic, but if you get the counters and then... All right, so Idols, like we said, I'm going to come out, I'm going to exile. Takes 2 damage from Epidemic, but does have 6 damage on board. An option could just be to slam in for 6 and then threaten lethal on the following turn. We know Ricky's not got anything left in hand, and I don't believe there were any Coalesce cards in the yard, so... All right. You might notice our enchantments now have the Nyx frame. That's going to be happening in Foundations, I believe, in Canon Magic, but we took the leap and decided, hey, let's just go for it now. Okay, willing to do a slower turn. attacking solo with Xifang just to exile the mana ascetic. That's, totally reasonable play. And then going to use Time-Worn Crags now that there's 3 non-basic lands and is going to get rid of Lumbering Hillock. I actually like that plan. Getting rid of the 4/4 trample on your opponent's side of the board means there's a lot less things to deal with. Oozing Yaoguai, though, pretty good card. It's 3/4 for 4. That gives a creature -3/-3, and you gain 3 life, so it does a lot. And if ever it dies and it's in the yard, you can always scavenge it to get that effect again. And it is a 4 mana card, so Event Horizon is going to struggle to get rid of it here. And as a 4 toughness, it means Xifang here is not going to easily be able to go through. And we're not anywhere near the 6 mana to give Flying First Strike, Indestructible, Lifelink, Vigilance, and a +1/+1 counter across the board. So could be a Disciple. Yeah, okay. We could either fetch another... Did I miss something? Hold up. Oh, maybe it was an accidental drag. I don't think the Disciple was supposed to be in the graveyard. We'll see. Maybe I'm missing something, but yeah, I think that might just be a mistake. Disciple's going to go get some stuff. So some options you could have is getting a Polyp Pools and playing it this turn because you haven't played a land yet, and that would be your Horror, that would be your Angel, which means that Disciple would already be a 4/4 flyer, but you can always just straight up go and get a Promise Exaltation. I don't know why Disciple is in the yard. Did I miss something? Oh, yes, I totally missed something. Epidemic works right away. Duh. Okay. So we're just using it as a 4 mana tutor. My bad. My gosh, that took me a long time to notice. Everybody else in the comments must be like, Times, what are you doing? It's right there on the board. Yes, it is right there on the board. So that's my bad. Makes a lot more sense. I'm happy I didn't actually stop to ask. I would have looked even sillier than I was. Long Forgotten coming out, beginning of Enchanted Player's upkeep, so it's a curse, it's on purple right now. You get to exile up to 2 target cards from their graveyard, and if 2 cards that shared a type were exiled this way, you get to draw a card and you lose 1 life. So popping both Disciples of Faradia here. Interestingly enough, Subdue is what, 6/7? If we drop the Polyp Pools here, but that's still not there. Okay, so a second Polyp Pools, though, could bring it up, so I'm sure Ricky's got that in mind and might want to get rid of that. But yes, getting the extra card here off of Long Forgotten is pretty relevant. All right, Exaltation coming out. It is still a 3/3, but now we're back to where we were before, and now when we attack, we can grow into a 5/5 in the case. So Ricky can opt to take the 5. Ricky could chump with a Yaoguai. I have a feeling that it's correct because of the scavenge. You'll have means of reusing it, and you've got Ramsey in the yard. You've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is your 6th mana. Long Forgotten is here. You got Epidemic. The life gain off of Disciple of Faradia, though, is pretty relevant, like the 5 life here. So, all right, Ramsey coming out. You get to Educate a land, which is this aura, which simply reads when you tap it. Okay, well, we use it right away. It's you sacrifice it, and you get to untap the land. So you got 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Yaoguai triggers. We put 3 +1/+1 counters here on Ramsey, and we did -3/-3 to Exaltation here. And Ramsey also creates antelopes whenever auras become attached to lands you control, hence why we have a lovely little antelope here. All right, so Long Forgotten gets rid of 2 Promised Exaltations to draw another card. Okay. I mean, I guess that's correct. I mean, if you're not concerned about seeing the Subdue False Idols coming out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, you're a bit short. But one of the risks of putting Primal Resurgence on a non-basic land is, 1, 2, 3. It's easier to get rid of with things like Time-Worn Crags, which could definitely be something that we see here, just popping off the big mana. But I think 6. Okay, we just went with God mode on Xifang. All right, so Flying First Strike, Indestructible, Lifelink, Vigilance, and another +1/+1 on top of the +1/+1 that would normally have. So Well, let's just make sure it shouldn't. Because you should get the +1/+1 counter and the 1 from the god. Right? So it was a 5, 6, 7. Because you transcend puts another counter. Let's check. Maybe I miscounted, but it's the kind of thing that we want to, yeah. Okay, cool. I was right. All right, so it should be a 7. So for an extra point of damage here. And yeah, flying first strike, indestructible, lifelink, vigilance, gains the extra point of life. We're all the way back up at 19. Not that it makes a huge difference, but we do want to make sure that that's an easy thing to miss, because you put the counter from here and you might forget to put the counter from transcend. So it actually grows by +2/+2 when you pop off the god mode. Yeah, there we go. That's such a funny line. Demigod, promise, promise, God, God trigger, God. And now it's just really, really huge. The fact that it's indestructible is really big here. Yeah, look at me thinking about land removal when the correct decision is just to absolutely go nuts on this Xifeng. I don't think that's going to be it. This does give flying. All right. Going with the primal. And nothing in the airs. So I think good on Ricky for just, like, passing it out, saying, yeah, play your thing, right? So a lot of lands, a lot of mana. And exile the 2 lands, hoping to maybe draw something. There could always be an out. If this was flash, it would be an out for a turn, but not even. We're at 5 here. Just taps the Xifeng, says, hey, is this enough? And the answer is yes, it is enough. So I'm gonna move to sideboards. Some slower matches than those burn lists we saw a little earlier. So hopefully you guys are getting a good amount of content. Oh, sorry about that noise. That is my cats. They have a food bowl, and it is lunchtime for them. They are wonderful. Maybe one day I'll show them on a stream or something. So, thinking about what players could have in sideboards. I don't know. I mean, we've already seen some of Purple's whitelists and the removal, but a lot of it could just be mainboard stuff. So it's hard to tell. So. All right, there we go. Cat food machines, they're done. They're just going to be eating now for a little bit. It's all the way in another room, so maybe you didn't hear it, maybe you did. If it's a little bit annoying, I'll check on the video streams in the future and see about soundproofing this room maybe a little better, but for now, it's the best I can do. All right, let's see what we got here. We have... Move my fan a little bit. An opening hand with 2 planes... Warcaller can get a 3rd land like Polyp Pools. You've got 2 Chronicles. Maybe that's enough. You said, hey, I'm willing to do Chronicles if I don't find a 3rd land. Helena's a good one. Over on Ricky's side, starting right away with a Mana Ascetic is never bad. Sacrificial Bull's going to get rid of stuff in the graveyard, which is pretty solid. And we've already got the Epidemic for when we ramp up to that. And then we have the Miss Letitia Wormwood, who creates Vile tokens. We'll see them on the field soon. And then the -3 is sack another non-land permanent. If you do, destroy target non-land permanent. So it's kind of like a nice catch-all answer. And of course, the emblem, I don't believe I've seen happen very often, but you do get a legendary 6/6 Black Fairy Angel with flying, so it's not horrible. Vile tokens are new named artifact tokens that we have in MSEM. They're kind of like half clues. You pay 1, you have to sacrifice it and another permanent, you draw a card, but only during your turn. So we didn't get a 3rd land here, but we did see Venerated Sanctity. We still have the Chronicles, so there's definitely some plays we can do here. Sanctity being able to attack, and then you could pay the white to exile Mana Ascetic. I love the Darn Player. Yeah, so Purple's kind of just... this only works when you deal combat damage to a player, not to a Planeswalker. So you can only get that trigger if you do that. So we got the faith counter. Are we going to use it on the ascetic? Nope, doesn't look like it. I think we're going to be willing to maybe save it up for Letitia Wormwood on a future turn. If that's the case, I think we're going to see, yeah, Sanctity number 2 and Chronicles of the Kitsune coming out. We're also going to get a 2/1 Fox. There we go. Passing it over, we're drawing into a nebula of empty gold. We're already at 1, 2, 3. This is going to be 4. Not at Inexorable Epidemic, but, you know, Sack Bull could come out. Start doing some stuff. We have another mana ascetic. We can get to 6 actually pretty quickly here. We have the lands and we have the mana ascetic. So if you ascetic out this turn. But yeah, -3, gonna sack a non-land permanent, so it gets rid of the vials, gets rid of the Venerated Sanctity, which was threatening to get rid of Letitia Wormwood next turn. You want to keep it alive. The +2 on the vials is definitely not nothing, and the fact that it starts at 4 loyalty means that, you know, it's often a 6 loyalty for a 3 walker, which is, you know, not horrible. And it means the emblem is technically not infinitely far off. So then you're going to use the mana to run out the ascetic and the sacrificial bull. So we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be 6. That'll be an epidemic next turn, which can clean this up if nothing happens to these mana dorks. Drawing into a subdue false idol. So we did hit the issue here, which is didn't draw the 3rd land. This seems to have happened a few times. I wonder what purple's land ratio is. Maybe it's just unlucky. Bull's going to trade here with the red fox, and Letitia Wormwood is going to take 1 damage. We're going to play out the 2nd Chronicles, get the fox back out, but not able to run out Helena or any of the subdues, or the war caller kind of sucks. But, you know, you can bluff that you're holding up something, I guess, with 1 mana. But I'm assuming this is just going to be a slam. Oh, maybe not. Okay, going to use Letitia Wormwood first to play the vial, and then we're going to pay 6. We're going to slam Inexorable Epidemic out here. And purple's like, yeah, that's it. I'm at 2 lands. I don't have the firepower to recover from that sweep here. Moving on to game 3. Yeah, it's pretty scary how fast you can get to 6 mana if you've got like all these mana dorks and these ramp pieces. Speaking of interesting pieces, Splinter Entanglement that we looked at the beginning of the match, finally in an opening hand. Both players are keeping. We have 3 lands over here on purple side, though. Shikai's Readout, debatable whether it's a land or it's an uncounterable colorless spell. You know, you decide. You let me know in the comments what you think. But in a pinch, you definitely do play it as your 3rd land if you need to. Ricky's going to play out a Black-Green Nebula, going to give it Primal Resurgence. Oh, well, hey, we drew another Plains, which means we might not have to use Readout unless we really need to. 2 is really nice here. You get to run out Xifang here on 2. Making your opponent's non-creature stuff cost 2 more is not horrible, especially with Splinter Entanglements and Unmarked Vials just aren't going to be able to be played next turn, but Event Horizon is going to be played. We're saying, no, you're not ramping. Just get rid of that. I think we're just going to see, yeah, Forsaken Palace gets brought out. You are at lower life, so Ramsey is going to come out. The aura is going to go on the Nebula. You get your Antelope. This Ramsey just does so much. It's wasn't legendary before. Now that it is, it's a little harder to like scale exponentially out here. We're going to see Xifang this turn instead, and that means non-creatures are going to cost 2 more until next turn, which means we're not going to see. I mean, we can, because you can go 1, 2, crack 3, and then 4 off a Grim Bastion. So you could drop one of these 2 drops, but you're not getting all of them out this turn. So there we go. Unmarked Vials, 1, 2, 3. Creates a Vial token. These are really good. Now, like, you might be thinking, hey, like, are Vials really doing much? Yeah, they are. Splinter Entanglement means that whenever you sacrifice those cards... Oh, never mind. That's Creature Enchantment Planeswalker. Then... I guess they're just there for the other sack value for other stuff. But definitely when you sacrifice some of the enchantments like these auras, I believe, right, would work with Splinter Entanglement. Yeah, you could search for enchantments because it's card types. So not bad. Xifang went up to demigod mode, going in as a 3/3. And until end of turn, whenever a creature attacks, you get a 1/1 colorless spirit. Nice little Jade Idols from Hearthstone, from the World of Warcraft universe. So that's just going to hold up a blocker. Forsaken Palace is coming out. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus mana here. That could be Xanagan. It could be a Splinter. Could be a Long Forgotten. A lot of little things we can do here. Long Forgotten just tends to accrue continuous value, so it's not a bad card. Let's see what else we got. A little bit of thinking, little things to think about. We're at 4 lands, could be 5 with Shikai's. We're getting close to God moding Xifang. That'll be something to think about. Okay, we're attacking with the Antelope. I love it. Okay, so while the vial itself won't trigger Splinter Entanglement, the fact that it's another permanent, you can sacrifice something that will trigger Splinter Entanglement. Okay, that makes a lot more sense here. That's pretty cool. Speaking of, Splinter Entanglement's going to come out. Love the enchantment border that Beyond the Black Wall has. So going to crack a Ramsey, and then Splinter's going to pick the second mode, I believe, which is the sack a permanent that shares a card type. So I'm going to have to sacrifice a creature. So Splinter can do a lot of work. It's once during each of your turns, but you know, being able to sacrifice specific things means it's hard for your opponent to keep things on the board, and the fact that you can also just tutor in a pinch is definitely relevant. All right, we have Subdue False Idols, which should hit creatures. None on the board right now. We could start doing another Xifang. Just for the non-creature spells, cost 2 more to cast. We could run out a Venerated Sanctity, so that next turn we'd be able to start swinging in. By the way, lots of whales in End of Wolensea, so if you like whales, whale spirits, dolphin pods, that set's got you covered. Passing it back over, we drew into a Wayfarer's Shrine. We also had a Sacrificial Bull that was lying around here that was drawn off of the Vial token. A few things in the yard, not too much. Bull can sacrifice itself, so that's always a free trigger on Splinter Entanglement as long as you're doing it during your turn. It's nice that Splinter does not trigger when you sacrifice lands. That would be a very weird black card to have to deal with, so that's a good thing that it doesn't do that. It's a very interesting card, and we already know the deck proved itself. I think it went 4-1 already in League today, so this is more of a run back, kind of like a victory lap here for the deck. All right, Ricky's checking out their sideboard, which is always an interesting thing to think about. We can't see the sideboards, I believe. I haven't actually bothered to check. I wonder. I would be very surprised if we can see. Okay, no, Graveyard and Exile. That would be very weird if I could see the sideboards. Very happy that that's not the case. That could lead to some interesting problems in regards to people spectating and then checking your opponent's sideboard and then telling you what they sideboarded in. So good job, Cockatrice. You're keeping things safe. I like it. All right, so let's think about what's going to happen. We're at 5-6. Next turn, that could be a Xifang, or obviously you could dump everything on Venerated Sanctity because it's a flyer. But the fact that it has a sack ability and you're maybe going to want to use it maybe means that you want Xifang to grow anyway, and it's going to get flying off the flying counter, actually, right? Yeah, okay, it does have flying. Never mind. You'd put that on Xifang. Wayfarer's Shrine got cracked. We went to the mono black. We're still at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if we pop the land aura here. So a lot of little interesting things we could do. Again, what do we have in the graveyard? 2 cards and they're different types, so Long Forgotten is not going to draw a card. But I mean, a double copy of Splinter Entanglement would be solid, but I don't know. I have a feeling that I mean, you can't really run out Xanagan this turn, right? Because it costs 2 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. and that's technically costing 7. So it's not going to be a Xanagan turn. Stagbull doesn't cost much more. Long Forgotten and Splinter cost an extra 2, but you know, if you have 6 here, you could go Bull and Splinter or Bull and Long Forgotten. It doesn't feel incorrect to start putting out some bodies, but then again, if you know your opponent's packing a ton of it, you might not want to just run it dry. You're at 12. You got to be careful because it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not crazy. Okay, so Bull coming out. There we go. Remember, purple doesn't have currently the 6th land in hand, so the that's not an option yet. Okay, so we went with the bull trick. So played the bull, sacked the bull. It's even in the name. I love it. And then Splinter Entanglement is going to go for the tutor mode. So we're going to go and find a creature. And we're going to put it into our hand, then shuffle. So it could be a... What have we seen so far? Yao Guai. We've seen Nyo. I am blanking so hard on that card's name. Is it Wang? I am blanking really hard. Guess what? We're going to figure out in seconds what card got picked up. Okay, it was a Gore Mound. Cool. Interesting. I was wondering if we're going to see cards like this. So this is from Told Midnight. It might look like a big, expensive card, but you play it for the Evoke. It's 1 and a black. It gives a creature -3/-3 until end of turn, and all other creatures you don't control with the same name as that creature get -1/-1. Also, hey, I totally forgot that this was not the Xifang that had already demigodded. So now we're demigodding a second time. So now we're at 3/3 and a 1. Then we're going to go into God mode, possibly in the following turn. Holding Shikai's readout here is good. I mean, being able to pitch it and get something out of the yard if you really need to could be relevant, but I don't think there's anything that really needs to be targeted right now. Oh, it was so close. It's NIU, not NIO. Okay, well, speaking of, here it comes. Neomo Wang, Ashen Absolution, and you can opt to have players sack a non-token creature, enchantment, or planeswalker. So let's see. And because it says non-token, you could always say creature and then force Xifang to get sacrificed. And then when you sacrifice a creature, Splinter will trigger. You can go and get a card that shares a card type with it. There's a lot of stuff you can do. Okay, so going for the sacrifice. I believe the only thing they can sacrifice is Xifang, so... what did I miss here? Splinter Entanglement... Oh, okay, we sacrificed Splinter Entanglement. I was like, where did that happen? And then we went and fetched a Inexorable, Epidemic, and Primal Resurgence. All right, so Subdue False Idols is going to get rid of the Ox. What do we have here? Mirror Gates, Shikai's Readouts. Mirror Gate's probably not doing too much here. You might put them off of one color, but there's still green in here. And you know the big danger right now is the Epidemic coming out. Let's see. We got no Polyp Pools. So Subdue False Idols is still at 9. We're at 6. A Polyp Pools in the near future could make a big difference. Okay. So Mirror Gate picked Lumbering Hillock, just making sure that we're not seeing it. It's going to tap for blue and for black. It doesn't want to have to deal with a 4/4 land creature. Totally understandable. All right. It's nice. This is a really interesting toolbox, the fact that you can sack certain things, and it all kind of like works together. Splinter really does a lot of work, especially when you can bring out other copies of stuff. I quite like it. Nebula is going to come out as another black-green Nebula. We're going to run out Primal Resurgence on the original Nebula. So green, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's Xanagan coming out. Xanagan's got a really cool toolbox. It's whenever you activate a loyalty ability of Xanagan, you get an emblem with Exalted. And the +2 is 2 damage to a target. You gain 2 life. The -3 is draw 3 cards, lose 3 life. And the -7 is Xanagan becomes a 7/7 demon with flying indestructible. That's still a planeswalker. Prevent all combat damage would be dealt to her. So she's a really good kit. I used to see this card being played a lot more. I'm happy that that's still the case. The card's very good. We got up to Promise Exaltation, so we have a 5/5 Angel Spirit here. There is an Epidemic in hand, so Epidemic can make it into a 3/3. You know, not quite getting rid of it right now, but and that could threaten some damage here on Xanagan, which is not bad. As well as maybe just, you know, going for the kill here. 5, you could be at 7. If you have a way of growing it just one more, you're so close. Let's check graveyards real quick, make sure I'm not missing anything. No, we're just going to use Xanagan to -3, going to draw a bunch of stuff. Drew a lot of lands, a Grave Tiller as well. Can hit things out of the graveyard, gain a little bit of life, or recur some creatures. So now we could get back Goremound, Ramsey, or Sacrificial Bull. And the fact that this evoke would also sacrifice would also trigger Splinter Entanglement. So that's always nice. And all right, so here's the Epidemic. Not surprised to see it coming out here. Purple's still at 20 life, so it's not like, you know, it's an insta loss if things get removed. A little bit of room to play with. Putting that down to 3/3, which, funnily enough, is still the amount that you need to, you know, pop a Xanagan. So, I'm wondering if we're gonna see Grave Tiller evoke getting back Goremound to trigger Splinter Entanglement. Let's see. Oh, nope, Sacrificial Bull. Oh, okay. I guess we're just gonna go with the sack a permanent effect, but here we go. Shikai's Readout. Being discarded to get rid of Sacrificial Bull and the Goremound. But the thing was still sacrificed, so Splinter Entanglement is going to trigger and is going to remove. I keep forgetting that this actually has a removal mode, and it's not just a tutor toolbox. So, you know, this card's doing a lot. We're still at 6 mana. That's actually not bad, because that's a Chronicles and immediately an Act 2 Descent, which is, you know, beginning of your end step. If you control no creatures, you get Huli. The 2/1 won't survive. Obviously, it's going to come in and then immediately die to Inexorable Epidemic, and it costs 2 life, but the fact that every end step you'll get a... Huh. Okay. Why? Did I miss something? Oh, I don't know. Maybe Purple's like, hey, you know what? It's too much of a steep hill. Xanagan's gonna keep getting rid of. Okay, I guess that's fair, right? Xanagan would keep doing the 2 damage to Huli. Didn't quite get the subdue. All right, yeah, I guess that was it. I guess going, hey, I've got Xanagan, I've got Epidemic, and I've got more resources coming out was just a lot. So there we go. That was Mono White Pools. Yeah, forced to mulligan 10 times. Yeah, it's the mulligans have been really rough on this deck. So hopefully we're going to see more of it. It's an interesting build. I love Pool's deck. They do a lot of cool stuff. And it looks like Splinter Entanglement is doing a lot of work. So thank you again for watching. Stay tuned for more. We'll have more content coming to you pretty soon. Take care.